This title says it all. Our system is broken, and I want to show you why it's broken, and I want to show you how you can fix it by investing in revenue producing assets and getting out of the liability mindset that continues to keep hundreds of thousands of Americans poor across our country. And I gotta even say it's more than that. It's millions, hundreds of millions of Americans poor across our country. There is very few that are wealthy, and from the people that I've studied that are wealthy, the number one thing that they have in common is they all invest in real estate. I'm going to show you why our system is broken. When we're born, we all start at zero. We have a $0 net worth. When we start going into school, and I'm talking grade school and high school, they tell us to save our money. Save all of our money as much as we can because we're about to go to college. We need to save all that money. We need to save up to about $100,000 to go to college for 4 years. Well, what happens is we've saved up this $100,000 and then we spend it all and we go back to zero. Well, now we've graduated college and we got this awesome job and we're making $50,000 a year. And over the years, we just save up, save up, save up, save up, and we want to buy a nice new car. And we do. We buy that car at $75,000. Well, guess what? When we buy that car at $75,000, we go broke again. We're poor again. We don't have that money again. But you know what? We throughout the time we've gotten promoted and we've gotten these great jobs and we've gotten these amazing opportunities and we want to buy a boat. So again, we save up. We buy a boat and we go poor again. We have all these things. We have the college. We have the car. We have the boat. We have the house that we bought and we're broke again. We save and go broke. Save and go broke. This is what Dave Ramsey tells you about. Save all your money. Don't go into debt. It's reverse for the credit cards, where we'll spend the money and then pay off the credit cards, and then spend the money and then pay off the credit cards, and spend the money and pay off the credit cards. And I'm not saying credit cards are a bad thing. Credit cards are a great thing to leverage. Credit is amazing to leverage, especially when you're looking to do things like the Burr method in real estate. But what I am saying is that if you continue to live this model, you will be the poor 95% of our country. And sure, they are classified as middle class. But in my opinion, the middle class is the poor class because they have the advantage of having income to be able to invest that income to make them wealthy, but they choose not to. The middle class chooses to stay poor. Now, the poor absolutely could get off the streets. They could go find a job. They could go work for somebody. They could start doing the same thing as well. So it is all life choices. But as a middle class individual, and I'm there right now, but I'm studying these millionaires and these billionaires, and I'm seeing what they're doing, and I'm reading these books, and I'm like, man, I'm going to start copying exactly what they do so that I can break free. And that's what triggered me to jump into real estate and go full throttle my first 2 years. I challenge you to do the same. Now, it is a scary thing to do because this is what's going to break the model. Let me show you. I want to introduce you to Middle Class Marvin. Middle Class Marvin works a 9 to 5. Middle Class Marvin makes a healthy $75,000 salary. Great salary for Marvin, who lives in Montana. Middle Class Marvin uses his income to buy a car. I am sorry about my artwork, but that is a car. Trust me, that is a car. Middle Class Marvin buys this car, and he goes broke again. And this is an expense. Middle Class Marvin buys himself a house. This house doesn't produce him any additional income. Middle Class Marvin takes his salary and also buys a boat. Nice sailboat. Middle Class Marvin buys himself a Florida house. So now he has a house that sits empty half the year and another house that sits empty half a year. Middle Class Marvin is using his salary to fund all of these purchases. Meet smart investor Steve. Steve looks very similar to Marvin. They could almost be twins, one would say. But what Steve does is Steve makes the same $75,000 a year. And instead of buying cars and a house for him to live in and all these other things, Steve takes his money and he buys a rental house. Steve finds a tenant for this house. Instead of spelling it out, I'm going to draw another stick figure. Steve finds tenant Tim. Steve also buys another investment house and finds tenant Tina. And oddly enough, he just bought another house and another house. He did this, and he did 4 houses in 1 year. So you got Tina, Tim, Tom over here, and Timothy over here. A lot of tenant T's in these houses. This house cash flows him $200. This house cash flows him $300. This house cash flows him $300. This house cash flows him $200. So now Steve is making an additional $1,000 a month, an additional $12,000 a year that he then takes and buys a car. And he buys a really nice car. This is a really nice car. It's a pickup truck. Horrible drawing, but you get the point. He's using passive income cash flow to buy himself a truck. He also uses this $500 to buy himself a boat. So his truck payment, it might not be $500. That seems pretty low for a truck payment, but you get my point. He uses other people's money, all of our tenants, to fund his life. And then he continues to invest this money into revenue producing assets. And with the formula that I teach, you are able to do this 4 times a year because you get breaks. You're able to do it in 3-month segments. If your renovations are taking you longer than 3 months, you're going to get yourself into trouble. But every 3 months, you should be putting it into a new house, a new house, a new house, a new house, getting tenants in, and progressing your life forward. How do I know this? Because that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm doing the same model as Smart Investor Steve. I've just gotten even smarter than Steve, and I'm not using my money. I'm leveraging other people's money. So now I'm using $0 of my own income. I'm using my income as a cash reserve, storing it away so that I can do bigger purchases in the future. I've increased my income. I've increased my network, and I'm leveraging debt to continue to go into further debt that produces me cash flow, that funds a better life for me and my family. You can do this. I'm just that normal guy working the 9 to 5. I just want to teach people how they can leverage their own money, how they can leverage other people's money, and how they can create financial freedom for themselves and for their families. You guys get out there and be great, because nothing else pays.